Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Min Yu. The students call me Mr. Min, and I am the Associate Director of Admissions at Lick-Wilmerding High School. On behalf of the admissions team, I want to thank you all for joining us today to learn more about our community and specifically about public purpose. Let's start by having all of the members of our lovely panel of 4 students and 1 faculty introduce themselves. So if you all can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about why you came to Lick to just start us off. And Josiah, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Josiah. I'm a senior, and I went to look to be more academically challenged than I was in middle school, coming from a charter school, public school background, and also stay because I love Look because it's engaging for social activism and developing a community.
All right, next up, can you go, Erica?
Yeah, one thing that drew me to Lick was first the community. Like everyone was saying, I feel like such a diverse group of people, and I learned a lot about people from different walks of life than I, and also just the overall independence that Lick gives in terms of self-growth and finding what you're passionate about as a student.
Emma?
Hi, my name is Emma. I'm a senior and an admissions intern. I went to San Francisco Day School, and my pronouns are she, her. I was originally drawn to Lick because of the technical arts program and because Lick encourages its students to try new things, and there's a lot of great support systems to try out and take a risk.
Felix?
Hi, I'm Felix. My pronouns are he, him. I also went to San Francisco Day School, and I'm a junior at Lick. I really decided Lick was the place for me during my shadow visit. A couple things I noticed: Lick kids are happy. That was like immediately visible to me. Obviously so diverse beyond like racial, ethnic diversity, but in terms of interests, stuff like that. And then also the shops and campus really drew me.
And our guest faculty member, Laurel, if you wouldn't mind sharing, well, your name, how long you've been at Lick, and why you kind of love being a part of this community.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Laurel Nathanson, and I'm a shop teacher at Lick. And I've been here for 20 years. So I obviously really like Lick. It's a great school. I started at Lick because they had shop classes, and we haven't had shop classes at high schools in many, many, many years. So it was a natural fit for me. And I've stayed all this time because it's a wonderful school with lots of heart. It lives its mission statement, head, heart, and hands. I've always felt that, we've always strived to really live that. With regards to inclusivity and creating a community, and with regards to the arts and the shop classes, and with regards to our commitment to public purpose. So it's a wonderful school, and I've been blessed to be at it for this long. And the kids are amazing.
Thank you all. Laurel, I don't know if I knew that you had been such a long-standing member.
It flew by.
Yeah. I know what that feels like. So to kick us off, why don't we talk about what is public purpose? So how would you define public purpose? Erica, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, for me, I personally define public purpose as anything that you're passionate about, that you find that you want to pursue, and also that you can give back into your community in one way or another, through personal projects or through finding people who share the same passions as you, anything like that.
And
Felix, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with everything Erica said. Also, just taking what we learn for ourselves and making it more than about ourselves. So whether that's within the school community, bringing it to other students, or our city, even national or international community. I think Lick really helps us be engaged in all those ways.
Laurel, as a faculty member and like having seen kind of a short history of what that's looked like on our campus, how would you define public purpose?
You know, we are really blessed here at Lick. We have so many amazing classes, amazing teachers. The kids have a lot of opportunities to learn things that they might not in another school. So like the shops, for example. So I think it's taking the stuff that they've learned here and taking it out into the world and getting beyond our kind of our little world, taking it out into the real world where people really need it. And just it's the application of these skills that they've learned here.
Okay. And how is the purpose of, well, what are some of the ways that you've seen public purpose actually lived out at LWHS? Uzziah, do you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah, I can talk about a bit of the smaller scale, and that would be programs that through mentoring, like the PACT mentorship program and Peer Connect. PACT is a program for students of color at Lick to connect with middle schoolers of color and to be able to just talk with them and hang out and know that they are represented in the high schools. And then there's Peer Connect, which is for upperclassmen for ninth graders to connect with upperclassmen to have somebody they can go to for advice. And those programs are really strong for just building up those relationships, because with high school it can be easy to lose your feeling of just self with everybody else around you, but having people you can look to for support is really strong and empowering.
Emma, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so personally, a class that I've taken at Lick that had a lot to do with public purpose was a class in the wood shop called Private Skills for a Public Purpose. And in that class, we did end up making things such as furniture, cabinets, anything you think you could make in the wood shop for different communities outside of Lick that were in need of these things. But it was more than that. It was also that we were learning about environmental injustice, the prison industrial complex, and the inequality of public schools in the United States, just to list a few. And our woodshop teacher would have us learn these in a dialogue setting so that we could talk with our classmates about it. So I think part of public purpose is educating yourself and learning about the injustices in our world.
And Felix, would you say that's like kind of been your experience as well, or do you have like a different kind of interpretation of that question?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really amazing how public purpose is woven into the actual classes and curriculum at Lick. So the class Emma was talking about is one of the many classes that is actually designated as a PPP or public purpose program class. So all those classes have some kind of element where you're like actively giving back to a community or like learning about a really like community-centered issue. And those aren't just like shops or arts classes, also like certain math and science classes where there's like more field work.
I was also gonna add, boy, as I've seen PPP is especially freshman year as a frosh. There's several weeks throughout the year called PPP weeks, and they are held a few hours a day to just have open dialogue between small groups of frosh to talk about issues. Personally, for my PPP class, we talked about school shootings and gentrification issues, especially in the Bay Area. And those were really my first exposure to such an open and eager dialogue setting to talk about issues that our community is really facing and how to really be like the solution, and also just like learning more and growing to educate yourself, like Emma said.
Did anybody else here kind of feel like they learned something new about like what public purpose meant to them in their 9th grade year, or like it felt like kind of a new kind of conversation?
I think for me, in middle school, I just want to add on that. I feel like I had a very centered focus. Like I was passionate about helping children and also just providing education resources. But then coming to Lick, it helps grow my passions that I didn't know I had. For example, combining my passion for climate change and environmentalism with education. So combining two, but also learning more that I didn't know could actually become a public purpose project or like a passion of mine.
Yeah, I agree with Erica. Like with freshman year, it just felt like a different perspective because I feel like in middle school, like issues weren't necessarily discussed; they were just around us, and sometimes we'd address them, and sometimes we wouldn't. But with PPP in freshman year, it was kind of like you had to, and I felt like, and you would get a desire to talk about it, but nobody had to talk about it, which was nice for just being able to engage with it on your own personal level, but also hear other people talk about it from their own perspective.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Felix.
Oh, one thing I'd like to add is the Sam Mihara Days of Justice, which is basically, I think, 2 days per year where the entire days are dedicated to like learning about social justice, and they're led through workshops. So there's usually like a keynote speaker, and then it's all workshop based. And half of those workshops are actually led by juniors and seniors. So you get like the faculty perspective and then the student perspective too. And yeah, the topics are just like super like mind-blowing. And I know they've ranged from like public health and like urbanization issues to all sorts of issues. I don't know if any of you want to talk about which workshops you've been to. I know, oh, sorry. Another one that I went to was like an art-based one, like using art to like spread public purpose.
Yeah, I remember mine was, we just made sandwiches to pass out to food banks and I think churches. So we just like spent an hour making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they were led by like club leaders or like upperclassmen. And also, I think Sam Mihara Day of Justice was really interesting to hear from alumni who had either pursued something in their work related to public purpose that they started at Lick. It was really cool to see that too.
Anything else then? And so for you, Laurel, as an educator and somebody who's like with students all the time, what are ways that you kind of, how is serving the community incorporated into everyday learning?
Right. You know, we get a wide range of kids at Lick, and that's what's so cool about it. But you know, kids come in at different levels of preparation, let's say, and have different experiences. So teaching at Lick, you kind of need to be in tune to a range. And, you know, I personally really want to connect with my students. I think that at Lick, that's something that the teachers do really well with. Like, I think we really know our kids. And I think that's something that makes Lick special, is the dynamic between the teachers and the kids. Will you do me a favor and repeat the question one more time, Min? I've been at this for a long day.
So the question was, how is the purpose of serving the community incorporated into everyday learning? So, you know, like, well, I think...
I can answer this. I think I can answer this. You know, I think some classes are more adaptable to that. You know, in a shop class, it's a little bit more, I feel like it's an easier blend, right? Like Emma talked about her class, right, where they're building furniture for other schools. So I feel like certain departments, it's an easy blend. But I've witnessed other departments where you might not think that it's like, how would you make a connection to public purpose in this curriculum? What is it, science? Is it math? But I've really been impressed with the way teachers can make a connection. For example, in math, Miss Allen does the maker fair. And so the kids are making jewelry to sell that they've used math, some crazy math stuff to come up with some designs. So the teachers have been really creative in their approaches to use that element of public purpose within their curriculum. It's been pretty impressive because they can make these connections that I wouldn't have thought of. Does that answer your question?
Of course. I think kind of what you seem to be suggesting is that like everybody kind of has a slightly different take on what public purpose means, and like you get to interpret it in like this classroom setting a little differently.
How to approach it. There's so many creative ways to approach it. And I feel like the kids and the faculty kind of work together to make that happen.
Yeah. So for like our students, what are like different ways that you've kind of seen, like especially in the classroom, different ways that like public purpose or like our mission of public purpose has been a part of your like classroom learning experience? I'm gonna try Emma first, just to put you on the spot, Emma.
Okay. Well, kind of as I was talking about before, in my PSPP class, Private Skills for Public Purpose, there was also a lot of learning about the other people in my class and learning about their experiences and their perspective on specific issues. So it wasn't just about learning about the topics and building furniture, of course, but it was also about making connections with people in your classes and getting to know them on a deeper personal level. So in PSPP, that was my experience, but I also took another PPP class. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Shoot, my bad. Can you come back to me?
You can just say a department. You don't have to know the exact course name.
So I think the math class that I took sophomore year was a PPP class, and we also did learning through like some stats work about different things that were going on in the community. So I think the learning through PPP really does spread through all of the departments.
Anybody else want to share an experience about like how PPP for future reference is public purpose program. PPP or public purpose was kind of interwoven into their classroom experience?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. There was two classes I've taken. One doesn't exist anymore, so I'll just talk about Spanish through PPP first, because in that class we write letters to I think third graders who are all fluent in Spanish, and we engage with them in that way, and they'll come to our school and we'll go to their school. This year they only got to go to our school because of COVID, but it's a really cool experience just to engage with a community different from ours, and it incorporates Spanish because obviously that's like the main language that most of them speak. So we have to stretch ourselves, but also be able to be a part of a community like a lot that's a lot more different than our own, and experience like, you know, trying to see what kids are like, keeping up with kids who speak Spanish, and also having to know what they'll want to talk about, because you don't know what third graders talk about because it's been so many years since you've been a third grader. But there's another class that was really cool, was storytelling as empowerment. It was taught by our former Dean of Adult Inclusion, Tamisha. I think that was the right title. But it was a really cool class because I just took because I like storytelling. But it was a class that involved a lot of just getting to know the neighboring area of San Francisco. Like one of the shop's teacher, Miss Brooks, she brought in this documentary about the Tenderloin that she helped create, and it was really interesting to experience that, and also have like a local comic writer who writes about like trans women in her stories, get to experience that and have a culminating project where we needed to interact with somebody in the nearby community and make a project surrounded around them. So that's a really cool way that public purpose was brought into the classroom.
Go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, I've actually never taken a public purpose class, but two of the classes I'm taking right now, I've definitely really noticed how the teachers like weave in public purpose type aspects. One would be chemistry honors, which you might think it's like a super content heavy, calculation heavy class, which it is. but we also take time to talk about like how what we're learning really.
Felix, your mic cut out. Oh.
And it on like fire and like fire retardants and the controversies around,
and like environmentally also. And then another example would be psychology, brain, and behavior. That's also like a pretty content heavy class, but we take what we learn about like group dynamics and social psychology. And then one of our homework assignments was to actually watch the presidential debate and kind of think about like first just our feelings, because that was like quite a night, but also how what we learn about psychology totally plays in there and how like the candidates interact in that way.
So you're kind of leading me into this next question, Felix. So thank you for that smooth transition. But like, what are the ways that like public purpose play a part outside of the classroom? So like kind of what, like, I think Felix is starting to talk a little bit about that, but like Laurel, do you feel like that's been kind of your experience and kind of something you encourage?
Absolutely. You know, and the kids can talk about this as well. We do a summer Senegal trip, and this trip started, I think, in 2008, and it's open to kids that will be sophomores and juniors, and they go to Senegal for 3 weeks in the summer, and they are going to small villages, and they're helping to build schools and to repair schools in these villages, and they're doing all the physical work for this. So I think that's a great example of that. Some of the kids were going to go this past summer, but COVID got in the way. But I'm sure we're going to resume this program as soon as we can. Josiah, did you?
Yeah, I was supposed to go this summer, then COVID hit. Felix went, or he's gone. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but I was really excited to be able to help out a different community and also experience a culture different from my own. And it would have also been the first time going to Africa. So like, there's a lot to that, just to soak in and also experience with other people from Lick. And then also like, there's the architecture program where people can participate to like send in plans for the school. It's not guaranteed that your plans will become the school, but it's from like one of my friends participated and he was like really excited about it, and he didn't like his plans weren't the ones that were created for the school, but it was just still a fun experience to engage with.
Yeah, Felix.
So the year I went, it was last summer. One of the Lick designs was actually chosen. So somehow they like brought the models from the Lick architecture class to Senegal, and like the village voted on which one, and then it got built. So yeah, those 3 weeks were like definitely probably the most impactful 3 weeks of my life, honestly. Like also first time to Africa, first time like no hot water, like super rural setting. But I think we were able to pretty quickly get beyond like some of those like physical challenges. Every day for lunch, we would be by ourselves with a host family, and there was usually no common language, but kind of sitting there with them eating lunch for like a few hours because it was too hot to work in the middle of the day was just like an amazing experience, just like laughing and smiling and like trying to teach each other words a little bit, eating together. And then obviously like building a school. The kids there had no school before, and they would either have to walk a long distance, or I think many just didn't go. So like in terms of impact, that's definitely like a huge thing.
And you kind of mentioned those 3 weeks were like really impactful for you. Like, what do you feel like you learned about yourself through that trip or that experience?
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the trip was actually helping out in like pop-up medical clinic that we set up. The trip leader's wife is a doctor, so she brings like some medicine and like vitamins, and the people in the village can like decide to see her, and they like wait in long lines, and that like really, I mean, in terms of like healthcare, that probably told me something about how like that's something I really value, and like just sitting there next to her, like listening to her translate like their stories. Yeah, that's definitely, it made me realize that that's something that I might want to do in the future.
Sorry. So for the rest of you all, like kind of through this experience of being kind of surrounded by public purpose, I do feel like kind of like in and outside of the classroom, like public purpose is something that kind of surrounds, like encapsulates this experience in our community. What are things that you feel like you've learned about yourself?
For me, I feel like I've learned to value the importance of community. I touched on this earlier, but I feel like through Lick's help, I've met a lot of people who share the same passions as me, and I think that's really helpful for growing as a person, just to really build off of each other. We're not all the same, but we all may have the same goal. So I think that's definitely something that I've learned to really value too.
Something I've taken away from the public purpose program is just the idea of not being afraid to do something, even if you may not have the skill set, as long as it's not something like super important, like planning for a building. Like if you don't have the skill set, just don't worry about it. But like just trying to help create, like help construct the building, like you can definitely do that. Like when I was applying to Senegal, they were like, oh, knowing French would be really big. And I was like, oh, I don't take French, but I'm still apply because this is a good opportunity and I can try to learn the language along the way. And like I've mentioned a lot of like mentoring stuff throughout this discussion, because I just value like one-on-one conversations, but also find like just throw yourself out there, even if you feel like you can have like, even if you feel like you won't like fit into like a larger group, like still try, because they want you. Like if people are trying to create a change or just improve things, they need whoever they can. So you're always needed. You're always wanted.
Go ahead, Laura.
Before I forget what I'm going to say, a couple of things. One thing that I've noticed and learned is that the kids I work with, I have really grown to admire them and their sort of dedication to this and their passion for it. That's one thing that I think is pretty important. And then the other thing is that no matter what we're doing, it might seem small, but it actually really is impactful. Like we can really make people happy, right? I mean, so no matter how small or how big, or if it seems trivial, it's not. We really have the ability to make somebody's day, to make them happy, to make an impact in their lives. And I think what's great is that the kids see that too, and then the kids are really proud about that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's so important to not just see it as like a job you do, but it's really like a way of being. So I feel like a lot of you are kind of nodding along or like snapping when Laura was kind of sharing that piece. So did you want to share kind of what your thoughts or reactions were? Or would you say that like, yeah, like that public purpose, like in what ways kind of has your definition of public purpose kind of evolved through your time at Lick?
Yeah, kind of building off of what Josiah was saying earlier, I guess something I've learned is that like public purpose can be messy. It's not like a straight path that you follow. It kind of reminded me of on preparing for the Senegal trip. Again, like they told us that it might be helpful to know French, but I think only maybe one or two people when I went spoke French, students. And we actually tried to prepare by learning some Wolof, which is like a language spoken throughout West Africa. But it turned out the people in the village we went to didn't speak Wolof. They had like a language called Serer, which is more like that specific ethnic group. So like our Wolof prep totally did not help us, but it still like didn't really like hinder that connection that we felt, even like with the language barrier. yeah.
I would say when I originally got to Lick, I thought that contributing to the public purpose program meant going outside of Lick, but I think it is also possible to contribute to the Lick community itself in a public way. So for instance, I'm a part of the admissions team as an admissions intern. And that feels like a great way for me to give back to the school and help create a good experience for prospective students, because I really valued that when I was a prospective student. So I think there are also ways to give back to the community inside of Lick, not just outside of Lick as well.
It's just, go ahead, Laurel.
And, you know, as ninth graders, we have a program called Community Build. So speaking to what Emma just mentioned, you know, in ninth grade, they are working for the community. So as I'm sure people know, we have their shop classes. It's a year-long course for the ninth graders, a tech arts program. And at the end, the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, the students are in small groups and they are building things for the community. So we put out a call to teachers and admin and faculty staff, everybody saying, hey, is there anything you need that we can build for you? And those people become the clients for the kids, for this little cohort of kids. So, you know, starting in ninth grade, we're sort of building in this notion of helping other people and doing something, not just for yourself. Yeah, you're making something pretty for yourself in the shops, but you know what? You have these skills and now we're going to use them for our community. So we started pretty early and the kids love it. They love community build. And so now we have objects all over campus that the kids have made. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that as a beneficiary of, I mean, one of the students, Sadie Ray, who graduated, was that last year? It took her 3 years. Like she actually built a table for me over 3 years. It's really incredible. You know, like I'll show you when we get back to campus, but some really incredible work that does come out of the shops program, and kind of out of this desire for the kids, from the kids to like really serve, to like give their best, which is always like so heartwarming to see. I feel like we've been talking about the public purpose program kind of as this like philosophical idea. We all do community service, like literally have to do community service to graduate. So like, what are some of the ways that the students actually did to fulfill their 40 hours of service?
I can talk about my experience, but mine is kind of not special but different. So I did mine by going to this program called Mosaic and spending a week just being a cabin leader. I had to like warn my teachers a couple weeks in advance, so I wasn't just leaving me like, oh, bye, I'm not going to be at school. But it was a really nice opportunity to just experience being a leader to like little kids and teaching them different values and things, and also being away from school for a bit and seeing just a wider community, because when you're at school all the time, you can feel like this is the world, but like your view of school is like pretty limited. So just stepping out and being like, oh, these are people, like there are a lot of people around us too. And I'm not sure what everybody else is going to talk about, but Lake does offer a lot of opportunities to get your hours, to do community service, whether it's by helping out in an admissions event or helping or becoming an intern or something. There's a lot of ways to get hours.
So some of the ways that I fulfilled my hours, I spent some time at the food bank with my friends, packing rice or beans, basically any non-perishable food. But I spent the majority of my hours actually working on a project that was organized by Miss Allen, a teacher at Lick. And she organizes a maker fair each year at the West Portal Elementary School. And basically all of the students at Lick that get involved help create these little mini booths that will exist at the fair. So my year, I made an egg drop booth, and we collected recycled materials for 2 or 3 months. And we got some eggs the day before, and we let kids just build contraptions that would protect an egg from like a 20-foot drop. So that was just a really fun and fulfilling experience. And there's basically no limit to a booth that you could design in that project. So I thought that was a really great way to fulfill my hours.
I think something important to note is definitely the center at our school, the Center for Civic Engagement, play a huge role in pushing students to find organizations that they really want to serve at, and just like providing those resources for us, and also pushing yourself, your comfort zone of serve. I use my 40 hours through so many different things, like hours here and there. For example, we have PPP weeks, like I said earlier, but that's when sophomores can, it's like a little field trip we went to Mission Youth Art Exchange, and we helped set up their art studio, clean it, renovate a little bit, just for a few hours a day. I got a few hours there, and also that was run by a alum, which was really cool. So just connecting to other organizations local that like either pursue at further, like I think they provide internships as well. And like Emma said, open house, and also there's a peer tutoring program through either fellow Lick students who need extra support in certain classes, and also through middle schoolers at certain middle schools that you can spend after school. They come onto Lick's campus, tutor them for a few hours, and that's definitely another organization where you can get a lot of hours from.
Felix, how did you fulfill the 40 hours?
Yeah, I also kind of wove mine from like lots of different opportunities. Yeah, the center is like, they do not leave you on your own. There's like a blog that's constantly updated with like volunteer work and intern opportunities, and like an Instagram with more opportunities. So yeah, there's just so many things to choose from, and you can really tailor it to what you're interested in. Some of my highlights were also working with the food bank, but I was on like the distribution end of it. That was actually during COVID. So I think I had like about 10 more hours that I had to serve, and there were some suggested virtual volunteering opportunities, but none of those really stuck with me. So I spent like maybe about 8 hours at the Cow Palace parking lot during mornings, bagging up food and giving it to people. That was like really mind-opening for me, because kind of being at home for so long, like I get caught up in my own routines, but then seeing literally thousands of people like line up in a parking lot in our own city that need food, and being able to like make a tangible difference in that. Yeah, that was definitely impactful for me, and knowing that I was making an impact.
And I'm going to start weaving in a lot of the questions that we've received prior to kind of the start of this event from the families. And that's a really great example of like you feeling like you were in charge of deciding how you were going to live out public purpose. Would you all kind of say in your experience you have had the ability to like influence the kind of service that you were doing?
So you can definitely choose how you spend your 40 hours. There's no specific way that you have to fulfill it. I would also say, so your junior and senior year, you do have to take 1 semester each year of a PPP course, or you can apply for the internship in the center. There is also an independent study option, which I think Laurel is going to touch on. And this year we're rolling out a new program that are called the Junior and Senior PPP projects. And basically you can choose any form of service you want. You just have to commit to working on your project for at least 2 hours a week. So it's a great way to engage in your community in whatever way you want.
Laurel, since Emma called you out to talk
Sure.
about the...
Sure. So I don't teach an official PPP class, but I do independent studies. And kids can get their PPP credit through that. And basically, you know, the teachers get a lot of freedom as to what they want to do as well. Last year, we worked with an organization in San Francisco sewing capes for kids that have walkers. So my group of kids, I think there were 8 of them, and we would meet once or twice a week. There's a free period called tutorial that's built into our schedule that gives us some time to do miscellaneous projects. So I would meet with the kids once or twice a week, but once they had established how to make these capes, this is my sewing students, you know, it's independent, like they need to do the work. I guide them, but I really have to rely on them to sort of show up and kind of take control of the project. And in the end, we had, you know, 50 of these adorable capes that were distributed to little kids. And we got to meet some of the kids, and we got to learn about the organization. And, you know, it was very touching, and I think the kids were really touched by it. And it was just great to see the effect that had on this organization, a small nonprofit, you know, that's sort of trying to get by. So, and Lick does connect us with lots of nonprofits around the Bay Area. And there's so many, right? I mean, there are so many. So we're a great resource for learning about new organizations. And then they're in our, you know, we're connected to them for years, right? So we can always go back to this sort of resource. But Lick is, the kids are able to design their own PPP. I've had kids say to me, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Will you do this with me? And if I think it's a good idea, I might make it my independent study, and then I'll kind of announce it and other kids can join. So there's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. Anybody else want to tell a story about like how they were able to like do some of the stuff that they actually wanted to do from like your personal interests and like apply it to like fulfilling our mission of like public purpose? It's okay if you can't. Go ahead, Felix.
Oh, Erica's back. I was gonna talk about something Erica actually leads, the environmental club, which did its first ever youth climate summit this summer. So that like definitely wasn't like fulfilling any sort of PPP requirement, but it was just like, I mean, I was super impressed. Like there were hundreds of kids at this completely youth organized thing. Erica can definitely like give more specifics, but I attended and oh, maybe she's first. Yeah, basically they brought in like all these different speakers and professionals from like the environmental justice world, and they led workshops where it was going to be Bay Area high school students, but since it was virtual, any high school student could attend these workshops, make like a climate action plan for our own communities. And yeah, I guess like in terms of clubs are another great way where students can kind of engage in PPP. Not all of them are like officially fulfilling a requirement in that sense, but one of my favorite examples of that is Chef Club. We met, I think it's only like a few times a year, but after school, some students order like tons of ingredients from Safeway, and we use the Lick kitchen to cook all the food, and they distribute it to a homeless outreach organization. It's super fun to like get to cook on campus.
Erica, I know your internet is struggling a little bit. Are you here with us right now?
Yes, I feel like it's doing better, a little better now.
Okay, it's healthy. We just wanted to shout out the climate summit that you helped organize. One, why did you do it? Why did you do it?
Definitely was really just to connect with fellow high schoolers, because I feel like climate change, climate justice is such a prevalent issue in our generation. And it really was eye-opening to see how many high schoolers my age were really passionate about it. And it really started just with me and a fellow Lick student, and the several teachers at Lick were really fundamental in helping pursue that, and also the center as well. And they still continue to be help as we're trying to continue it throughout the year, just like this network of high schoolers who can connect. That was really, really just like eye-opening to see how youth can be independent. And it was really, really like touching that people would want to help me like pursue this passion. And also just in addition to that, in July, I wanted to start this climate camp. It was an online virtual camp with students 9 through 12. And we just taught all about climate issues through science experiments, stuff like that. And Ms. Bergstead and Ms. Ashenfelter, two science teachers that like were really fundamental. They actually came to guest teach one day. And that was really, really, I'm really grateful to them.
Josiah, did you want to say something?
I did. Yeah, since we're talking about like clubs and activism, let's just like PPP program. I want to bring up two clubs that are interesting, and that's Right for Rights, which Erica and I are part of, and FANG, which is Fostering Activism Next Generation. Right for Rights, you like write letters in solidarity or asking for change to government officials, and it's really cool to still feel engaged, especially now when it's like harder to just do stuff in person, be able to like write to support somebody or write against something. And then the with FANG, it's really cool because it brings a lot of social issues that are at the forefront right now to our community and seeing what we can do to engage with it. We've been focusing more on having teach-ins recently and just bringing in people to speak with students, and usually those are really effective, and it could be like teachers from the school or outside speakers. It's like incorporating that social justice into just our daily lives, so it's not just something we separate from school. It's like all together, it's connected.
Yeah, and so for like folks who are listening, it might really sound like you all kind of already came in with this very clear idea of like who you were going to be as like a leader or a change maker. None of you were nodding furiously when I just said that. So like, what did that growth look like for you?
I think, like I said earlier, I think just finding that there are so many issues that collide in intersectional, like that can be combined, and you can do several things with a certain project and address certain issues with something you just started out with one that was just one issue. And I think if you take away anything from this webinar is that this is a big statement, but that the teachers and faculty at Lick really, really just push you and provide the resources to really provide you to fulfill anything you really want. And any passion that you might have or didn't know you have, they'll be available to help you actually accomplish it. It might not be in the way that you thought of at first, but they'll definitely be there all along the way.
I think also, like, generally leadership and change making, as Min put it, it develops over time. You don't necessarily come in freshman year with the ability to say, X, Y, and Z are things I want to change, and here's exactly how I'm going to do it. Those skills are also what Lick helps you develop over time. So as you get more involved in the Lick community, you'll find that there are things that you're passionate about and things that you might want to help be a part of the change in. And I think that's how you get involved. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you want to do coming into Lick.
So we had a question from a family where they wanted to know, so for like shyer, more introverted students, how do we develop leadership skills in them? So does anybody feel like that's been their experience as a shy or more introverted kid? Yeah, Josiah.
Yeah, I can talk about that a bit. Freshman year, I was definitely like on the quieter side, for like a couple of reasons, but um, the main thing is just that like there will always be people you can connect with, whether it's a teacher or an upperclassmate or a, I don't know, a peer or something, who you can relate to. And for me, it was just like I was having trouble like speaking up and stuff, speaking out in class, or answering questions in class and stuff like that. And one of the teachers in the center, Christy, she noticed and she hooked me up with an older black male student who could kind of relate to my experience. And we were able to talk, and he introduced me to some of his friends and also just like the broader community. And I felt like more self-assured and like confident. And also I engaged with different clubs and participated more because I felt like I had a stronger community. And I think that's a big thing in finding your leader, like finding whatever leadership you have. Leadership isn't just standing in front of the crowd with a microphone. Sometimes it's just being there for a friend. Sometimes it's just telling your family something they need to hear. Leadership takes on different forms. And Lick is here to like help you figure that out. And the first step is just finding your community within Lick, because everybody's here to support you. It may take a while for some people, it may be faster for some people. And I know after my freshman year, that a big focus for me, like sophomore year to senior year now, is just like being there for lower classmen who may feel like me, who feel like they're not being seen, or they're quiet, or they can't answer questions because they feel like they'll get the answer wrong right away. And I'm just here for them, just telling them they can do it, no matter how quiet they are, however they feel. Other people will look at them like they can do it, and we're all here for them. I'm here for them, and just knowing that they're wanted in this space.
Yeah, and something you're saying is kind of making me think of another question that was submitted about like the challenges of transitioning to an independent school if you've attended public school your whole life. So if you can kind of add a little bit more about that, and Erica, as somebody who did not go to an independent school growing up, you can add a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, switching to private school it's tough, especially I don't know. It's just a weird change up. It's different. Lick has an interesting schedule where it rotates at different days. It's not too complicated, but it's different. So you're just like, whoa, like just on that, it's hard. But there's also different economic status, the racial makeup of your middle school transitioning to a high school that may not share the same demographics as your middle school. That's hard to take in. And it's something that you have to embrace. And it's apprehensive. It's like there's a lot of fear there of like not being accepted, but also strengthening your community, the community by being there. There's lots of ways to do that. You can, like, there's different clubs, but also just making sure to like you don't have to be like the voice in your community representing everybody, but there's engagement there. There's teachers who will listen to you, teachers who want you to be there, faculty who you can talk to all the time. Like the admissions, just you can always talk to them about anything. They love talking to you unless they're having a meeting. And there's with that transition, it's a lot about like um, like I'm trying to word this, but find like just letting the process take place, feeling like it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be different, but don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what I was trying to say. Don't be afraid to ask for help because that's always the first step. You don't want to just wander around blindly because that'll only hurt you. And there's different ways to ask for help. A way to ask for help could just be going to a club you never thought you'd want to go to and be like, oh, I love this space and this is what I needed the entire time. Or it's going to a teacher you really admire and saying, I'm feeling this way. Or your advisor, if you're really cool, or yeah, your advisor, because their advisors are always there for you. And yeah, like it's not the same for everybody. Some people can just come in and be like, oh, I love this group of people. I love all of Lick, and I don't need to worry about finding my support system. And for other people, it's harder. You may need to go to LSC if you feel like a learning strategy center. If you're feeling like academically, maybe you're struggling a lot more than everybody else. That's a long-winded answer, but I'm just trying to say that don't be afraid to ask for help. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Erica, anything to add?
I think something important that I learned and should like try to remember is there is no wrong way to contribute or be a part of PvP, but like overall just like be a student at Lick. Leadership for me coming in was like, oh, leadership, Stuco, that's how you be a leader. But not really. Like you can start your own club, you can intern with the center or be a TA for a teacher. There's so many other ways to be a leader. And yeah, I think coming into a middle school that's not the same demographic was definitely my experience. It's going to be different, but there are people who share the same experience as you. Although it may be small, you just got to seek them out. For me personally, I think me and Josiah definitely felt that we started our What is Faith and Spirituality Club, which has been really eye-opening and like really great for me this year. Yeah.
Okay, so we're down to like our last 3 minutes and so many questions, but we're going to hit some of these bigger ones. Laurel, I want to throw this one out there to you because I loved this question when I read it. What are your main hopes for graduates?
Good question. I think I try to help create a competent person, like somebody who can go out into the world and take care of themselves. Because a lot of us come into high school, we've been taken care of or maybe coddled a bit, perhaps. So I think to give the kids the skills to problem solve on their own, make their own decisions, and be independent thinkers that can just go out into the world. That's my hope. I mean, yes, I want them to go to great colleges and to get good grades and, but ultimately they need to be competent people in the world. That's my thing. Problem solving people.
And let's start with Emma and Felix and see how much time we're left with. But like what, kind of to wrap this up, like what is something you want our audience to know about LWHS and public purpose?
I think one of the biggest things about the PPP program and public purpose for me is just that Lick is a school that generally promotes empathy and connections between people from all walks of life. And I think the PPP program is a great example of that. And it's ingrained into all 4 years of your experience at Lick. And it is genuinely a core value of the school to look out for other people. So I think just being selfless and caring for those around you, regardless of your differences, is, I think, one of the biggest things about the public purpose at Lick.
Felix?
Yeah, I would say that like definitely public purpose and leadership is a learning curve, but Lick makes it easy. Like the school is there to support the students in becoming leaders in like whatever way that means for you. Whether that's like student council or clubs, like taking certain classes, branching out into the like broader community. And in terms of like getting a hold of yourself and being comfortable on campus, like the campus itself is something that really drew me to Lick. Like just physically, the school makes it easy to get to know one another because you have to like get to know the community before you can make a change in it. So even something as simple as like Frosh Hill, where it's just this like little turf hill where like many of the freshmen are known to eat lunch. But like if you don't know many people coming in, like there's always someone there that's gonna talk to you, and like really just making those connections kind of has allowed me to like learn about myself as a leader and how I can make a difference.
Josiah, Erica, best comment ever? We have, well, very limited time now. It's okay if you don't. I just want to give you that space. You good? Both of you? All right. So I know we weren't able to get to every question that was submitted or even that I had because there's just so much to talk about. But if you have more questions for the admissions office, please email us at admissions@lwhs.org. And to our prospective students, please get connected to a Tiger Ambassador by filling out the request form, which you can find on our Exploring page. On behalf of this group, I want to express our gratitude for your time and attention, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you for joining.